Hello, world. What's good, Seattle? It's your girl, Ebony. I'm here tonight at Black Dot Underground in Seattle's Central District. You know, the finest community in which I come from. I have a very important person here, a VIP, Willard Jimerson. Very important person, a friend of mine, a colleague, a mentor, a leader, a pillar in our community. And I just kind of want to ask him to introduce himself right now. Well, if you don't mind just telling the world about a little bit of what you're involved in, what you do on a daily. I know you're involved in a lot of stuff, but, you know, tell the community some of the things that you do that is helpful for not just our youth and young adults, but even your peers and other people, all the things that you do in the community.
Thank you for that warm introduction. My name is Willard Jimerson. I'm also from this wonderful community, the Central District. Who am I? I would like to think of myself in a variety of different aspects. Being a father, being a community person, an advocate for social justice reform, but also just having a desire, the will, the intentionality around just having integrity, in the community, and really not being transactional in my relationships, with the community, just being more focused on transformational, making sure that we're showing up and knowing that to give it your all every single day, whatever that looks like, 100% is 100%, whether it's 70%, but it's 100% of 70 that day, then it's 100%. So just giving it your all, so in a nutshell, that's me.
So I want to talk about, well, the topic tonight will be the school to prison pipeline, but I also want to highlight first United Better Thinking. And so you're the CEO, founder of it. And so I want to talk about what does that look like for a community? Like, what is UBT?
Well, UBT, United Better Thinking, it emerged out of the minds and out of an ideology that was created while I was incarcerated. The year was about 2007, and what it means for the community, it's very deep and steeped into social justice reform, individuals who have been impacted by the legal system, as well as it's a component that comes from the community and belongs to the community. That's how I look at UBT. It's not exclusively minds or exclusively any particular demographic, but it belongs to the community in a way to help, support, uplift, love, provide a space in a way that is, I would say in a sense that's non-traditional. They have traditional customs and styles and approaches in many different systems or settings. We provide a non-traditional style that is just as much as important as any other style. So
if you were to explain or elaborate what is the school to prison pipeline, what does that look like to you, the school to prison pipeline in a nutshell?
The school to prison pipeline in a nutshell, for me, it's become a cliche, and it's one of those things where it's a verbiage that has morphed, into a particular ideology, a particular concept, and a culture is being created around, what that looks like in terms of dismantling, or some people saying, systems are in place to keep it, live and steady. For me, I believe, first and foremost, I'm a history buff. I love to, unveil where certain terminology or concepts come from, because if we don't, then what we do is we end up utilizing these concepts and we keep these certain spirits or ideologies in place and don't realize what we're doing to ourselves, because we're casting that energy unto ourselves, unto our families, unto our communities. So when we talk about the school to prison pipeline, first and foremost, we need to really analyze, where did it come from? How did we get to the point where everybody is using that particular terminology to classify or to point out a particular aspect? Because when we do that, I feel in some sense we're missing the mark. And the reason why I say that, because it's more than just the school to prison pipeline. So when we talk about the school to prison pipeline, then we focus the attention and the onus exclusively, for the most part, on institutions that are considered learning, environments, which are schools. And the problems do exist in those environments. And maybe because young folks are captured in that environment for an extensive period of time throughout, a day, hours throughout a day, years throughout their lives. So there's data that's collected. But for people like myself, who comes from marginalized communities, we don't need data to tell the story. We have actual stories. We have actual experiences that will predate and it shows up before school to prison pipeline. My teachers didn't have this ideology about me as soon as I walked through, the threshold of being a student at a particular institution. They got that mindset before I was in that school. They had that mindset when they probably, came across me in a grocery store. Right. So it's more than just a school to prison pipeline. So we have to be real and really unveil where that concept came into place, came into fruition, and how do we get stuck there? Because if for some reason we are not able to see the bigger picture when we just exclusively look at one particular aspect of the problem.
So where did it come from?
Be honest with you, it didn't come from. I would be honest. I would say it didn't come from individuals who have been impacted, who are on the furthest recesses of marginalization. Right. We didn't identify that. Right. Something else or someone else identified this particular concept, and then we just bought into it in whatever way we seen fit. And but to be honest with you, just those terminologies, those concepts, where do they come from? They come out of white supremacy. Right. And one thing about white supremacy is very creative. It's a high performing, system. So it'll create a aspect or a terminology that is against and that is for, and that's how it controls the entire dynamic, the entire system, and so really we're talking about, a womb to prison pipeline. We're talking about, circumstances that predates or it's a precursor before, any person who's from a marginalized background enter a school system.
Wow, that's deep. You said womb to prison pipeline. That means it was already written before it even touched the face of the earth.
Correct.
That's deep and that's real. I can identify with that. So out of all the things that you're involved in, I know you deal with building men. You are a black man in Seattle, been through the institutions. You lived in the gentrified, you grew up in the CD where it's been gentrified, and you're involved in so many different arenas in life and in the community, but in different aspects and different platforms. So what pushed you or motivated you to want to advocate for policy, particularly around youth and young adults?
What pushed me, what motivated me, to be honest with you, life circumstances. When we was just watching in one of our groups last night, yesterday evening, showing a video where this brother, he's a poet, and he gave a poet. The name of the poet was called "Ask a Black Guy," and in one of those aspects, the question is for a white people or a white audience to ask a black guy any question around the black experience, and you'll get what you need. And so one of the questions that was posed was, why are you guys so good at basketball? Why is LeBron such a dynamic basketball player? And he broke down, well, if your only options are to evade, going to prison or end up, having an early demise, then you're to your best, you'll shoot the most jump shots as well to get out of those circumstances. So when you ask me what motivated me, it's circumstances. I was forced into, living this particular existence in a way that I'm showing up now. So, people could say accountability, people could say responsibility, and those things probably have a part in it. But in reality, it's the way the dynamics that is set up in our environment, that is set up in our culture, that doesn't give people who look like me much of an opportunity to do anything else but this kind of work until we're at a point in our history and in our lives where we can do something different.
Wow, that's deep, but that's real. I feel it, and I understand. Working alongside you, learning from you, is nothing but a privilege and an honor. I know for me, from my experience, it comes from a passionate place, and I can relate to that passion. I can identify with the youth and the young adults and just that circumstances, growing up around that age. So I understand that, and I appreciate you for all that you're pouring into not just youth and young adults, but your peers, even your elders. You pour a lot into a lot of people. So I really admire and aspire to that, in fact. And so I know for me, my life, it gets really busy. I'm burnt out. I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. And I can't imagine how your plate is overloaded, probably 10 times more than mine. So what refuels you when you feel like, you're drained, you're running on E? What motivates you? What keeps you waking up the next morning, every morning?
Reality, just being real, not getting lost in the sense of self. A lot of people don't realize that this work really has to be selfless, but in order for it to truly be selfless, it has to be spiritual. If you don't have a spiritual connection with the work, then that's all it is seen as is work. And then you clock in, I don't care if it's even 9 to 5, but even in those supposed relationships around this particular work, you end up clocking in, right? But when it's spiritual, it's relational. You see somebody, as a potential brother, you see him as an extension of your family, you see him as a sister, you see that person as a niece, as a nephew. So it's just more than just meeting up in those particular spaces that you call programming. You meet them, you find them, and you meet them where there's life. And so I got to find myself where there's life. I get up early. And I tell people all the time, they be like, man, you get up so early. I'm like, because I wake up listening for God's voice. I know in those particular times, those are the moments when I have no distractions. Even in my own self, as far as my own thoughts, I'm able to read. I'm able to clear my mind. I'm able to, have a clear, relational exchange between my creator or our creator. And so those are the things that keep me motivated. It revives me. And I love to read, but not, and even on a level of not going so deep, then I also do some of the most simplistic things, like, watch comedy or something, something that will give me an upliftment, or watch, something educational, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's, Brother Dr. Umar Johnson, or, Brother Polite, Brother Nuri Muhammad, or whoever, there's information out there that's always, I'm open to. So those are some of the things that I do. And it keeps me revived.
That's dope. Yeah. That's dope. Yeah, that's a lot of inspirational, motivational stuff. I wish I had the push to read as much as you, because I know your book list is long, but I'm gonna work on that. So my next question would be, and this could be as great or small as you see fit, but in your eyes, what is your greatest achievement?
In my eyes, what is my greatest achievement? Just being real. Not always, but there's times I've had these questions is, what is the most powerful thing that one can have, right? And there's a variety of different ways to answer that question. Some people might say the ability to see, the ability to speak, the ability to, make up your mind or whatever. And some people might just say it's life, right? And all of those answers are correct depending on how you see those answers. There's no right or wrong way to answer that question. But for me, the most powerful thing is having the choice to do something with your life. You know, because you can just get life, you know, have life or whatever, but to make something out of your life, that is a powerful thing. Like, in spite of what you might have been through, what you've been up against, to be able to still make something out of life and have an educated, accountable, you know, position in structuring that life. So when you ask me what's my greatest achievement, is me making a decision to do something different in spite of what I've been exposed to, and then having my children. They give me so much, you know, motivation, so much inspiration to understand the, you know, the value of life outside of just my own, you know, peripheral. It just, those are the things that really I would say are some of my greatest achievements.
That's powerful. Just something so simple but so big. Just the freedom of choice. That's dope. What would you say if somebody wanted to get involved, been affected by the school to prison pipeline or the system or institutions, or however you want to look at it, if they want to get involved in doing, just being more involved in the community, or just, you know, what would you, if they don't know where their space or what they want to do or how they get involved, what would be your advice to them?
My advice for someone who wants to get involved in doing community work or anything like that, I would first advise them to do the work on themselves. You know, a lot of times there's people who jump into these particular spaces and they jump in with you know, maybe a Superman complex or a Superwoman complex and don't realize that. I call it a God complex. Like, I've spoken to you and the words of wisdom parted from my mouth, and that was enough that should have changed your life, right? Or let me tell you about my story. Let me tell you something, you know, from my particular lens. I think that people should first be willing to do the work on themselves. If you have, it's just basically, let me just say it like this. If you have the desire to become a firefighter, you have to do something more than just become a firefighter. You have to do all of the practices, whether it's from the aptitude, knowledge-based test to the doing seeing where your physical stamina may be in terms of, you know, your fitness. You have to do all these things for yourself first, and then you have to have the knowledge that is attached to every piece of equipment. Right? Because when you get the knowledge that's attached to every piece of equipment, you're putting on your own survival so you can be able to walk into these particular burning places to bring other people's lives out of those circumstances. So I feel like people should be able to do the work on themselves first, because when you start dealing and working with people, you're going to be dealing with complicated individuals, complicated systems, and there's going to be some complicated approaches. So you have to be able to open yourself up and find yourself before you even, I'm not going to even say before, but be willing to do that piece, be willing to do that work. And so when people say they want to get involved, if you're getting involved and you have not done that work, we talk about the credible messenger. And I tell people all the time, if you have not done the work on yourself, you're not going to be a credible messenger. You just be a credible mess.
That's deep, and that's real. And I know for me, sometimes when I get overwhelmed and I go through my things, the group is like my therapy. So just coming to group and being able to interact with those young lives and seeing the beauty and just all the strength and the power that comes from them, the stuff that I learned from there is just phenomenal. It's amazing to see all this young, brilliant, just blooming, blossoming, just spirits. It's just amazing. And so, so how could one reach you if they wanted to reach out and contact you?
To be honest, I mean, I can give my information, but it's not just about me.
Right.
It's about we. It's about the collective, the bigger picture, which is us, right? I wasn't born into this world by myself. I might leave by myself, but I'm not going to be the only one leaving. So we want to make sure that we leave a mark that is a legacy, so that requires all of us to be able to grab the shovel and put some work in. So if you want to connect with us, meaning those who are in the community doing the work, you know, as best as possible, sometime with little, sometime with very little to nothing, right? Only just the sheer will and the heart, the ambition, the sweat equity, the value that comes with that. We can be contacted. We're at Luther's Table in Renton. right across the street from Renton High School, on Tuesdays and Thursdays between the hours of 5:30 and about 8 p.m.
That's the groups.
That's
right?
the groups. So we run a credible messenger group called GROOM. GROOM is an acronym that stands for Gifted Regardless of Oppressive Methods, out of the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle, where I am a program manager. And alongside of me is the wonderful Ebonee Heller, who is interviewing me at this particular moment, who's also a co-facilitator, does a wonderful job, and just your level of love, support, and consistency for those young folks, and creating a space that is exclusively for them, in ways that they don't get it any other way. So we can be reached in that physical location. Obviously, I work at the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle. They can come down and connect. We have people who can connect you to a variety of different resources and services other than just youth and young adult, right. Transformational processes. And the number at the Urban League is 206-461-3792. Once again, that is 206-461-3792. And then my work number is 206-265-1323. 206-265-1323. And email is wjimerson at unitedbetterthinking.org, or wjimerson at urbanleague.org, or inspirationalwill@gmail. I could be connected there. And so, yeah, there's a variety of different ways, but I would just say come down and get connected.
That's how you know it's real. You look Johnny on the spot, huh? Here's all the contact information.
Yeah,
What you need, we got you. If we don't got it, we'll figure it out.
Correct.
That's dope. So lastly, this is a bonus question. I want to know, who you are right now, if you was able to have like an out-of-body experience and was able to walk alongside your younger self, what would you tell him?
If I were able to have an outer body experience and go back and talk to my younger self, what would I say to him? I know there's a lot of people who pose those kind of like what if scenarios to build on what we could be doing. It wouldn't really be much of what I would say. It would be more about what I would do. It'd be more about how it would show up. Because there's a lot of things being said, but there's not a lot of things being done. So it's not about just going back and having a conversation, because the world is constantly having a conversation with that young man. And if I'm just having a conversation with him and it's not consistent enough to show up in action, you still are not doing the work to eradicate the structure and the parole that he's being exposed to. So if we don't create an alternative, I know that they say, conversation rules the nation, but I come from a background that extends a little further. Conversation may rule the nation, but demonstration beats out conversation on any given day that ends with a Y. So it's about demonstration. It's not just about conversation. It's not about lip service. It's about life service. So it'd be more about how I show up in his life on a continual, consistent basis that will create a parallel existence in terms of an alternative for this young man. That would be more something that I'm more apt to do versus just grabbing the microphone. Because everybody want to grab. You put a microphone in anybody's face, for some reason everybody knows what to do. But as soon as you grab the hard hat and a pair of boots, they get dumbfounded. They don't know what to do. So it's more about the work and less about the words.
Ooh, I just got laced. My boots got laced. Jewels been dropped. Now I'm feeling rejuvenated. That's what's up, man. Thank you so much. That was nothing but power. That was just felt straight from the spirit, from the soul. I appreciate you. That was a lot. That was a lot, and I appreciate you and all that you do. You're amazing. I call you my voice of reasoning, because there be times that I don't know what to do. I don't want to be impulsive, and I hit you up. Well, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I want to react. What do you think I should do? So I appreciate you just being Johnny on the spot, not just for the youth, but, for adults too. Because we're still people, you know what I'm saying? And so it makes a big difference to me in my world when coming from what we come from and you know, the things that I've been through in my walk of life, and to have this responsibility, and then get to a point where it's like, hold on, I'm still human. You know what I'm saying? So to be able to have that, that I know you're not going to judge me. I know you're going to be there in whatever time it is, if you can, and you got me regardless, and there's no love lost and no different viewpoint. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, let's continue to do the work.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
And just to bounce off of that, in closing, is I like to look at it from this perspective. And it's not just about a geographical location, but in reality, I'm from here. And when I mean that I'm from here, I mean my roots, you know, in terms of who I am. You know, they're extensive. It's not just Willard Jimerson that people know from Seattle, or, you know, to get specific, from the Central District. There's elders who grew up with my mother, my father, or who was fed by my grandparents when they, you know, whether they had somewhere to eat or not, they was treated as family. Right. I'm really from here. There's elders who remind me of how they used to play with my mother or my father. I went to high school, went to Garfield with my mother or my father before I was in existence. There's people who remind me and say, you don't know how your mother or your father looked out for me, even though I don't really have that relationship, or that I have a special bond or connection with you, so I'm really from here. And because of that layout, I have no intervals in my life and how I show up in this community and how I show up in the efforts around the things that we do. I can't disconnect.
Right.
There's no way I can disconnect, because as soon as you disconnect, that's when the process becomes less transformational and it becomes more transactional.
Right.
You know, it's about what can I get? How can I balance this out? What can I gauge from that? So when you talk about these things, when you reached out to me and you started coming and volunteering your services, you're from where I'm from, right? You grew up on Yesler. I'm from Yesler, grew up on Yesler, you know? And so even though we didn't grow up together,
right,
we in two different age brackets,
right,
but there was no way that I can disconnect from you in any particular way. And so when it's real, it's real.
Right.
And, you know, that's all I can say. I just can't disconnect from my people. You know, I love my people to the death of me. And I'm going to do all that I can to support, to love, provide whatever, you know, resources, because it's really about love.
Yeah.
When at the end of the day, it's about love. So that's what I'm here. I'm here to survive. Provide love. I'm here to give love, and honor that in every way possible.
Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're dope.
Appreciate
you're
it.
Simply dope. That's what's up. I appreciate you. And keep up the energy, man. The whole world needs some of that. That's just that's love.
Appreciate you. Thank you.